This video is going to be a film study look specifically at Odafe Oweh and how he really dominated the Steelers' tackles. Yesterday, they each got a little bit of his explosiveness and he's very clean and decisive, I think, with his moves right now, at least on the film that I'm going to show you. He now has 7 sacks on the season, 18 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble. That's through 11 games. That's a career high in terms of sacks. But check this out. I just was able to find some of these stats this morning. He's now 12th, tied for 12th in the league in sacks. He's tied for 4th in the league in quarterback hits, again with 18. He had 2.5 sacks yesterday against the Steelers. Could have had another one. They whistled a play dead to review the really poor decision by George Pickens, unable to get his second foot in bounds before trying to reach for the third down. I believe that was in the third quarter. But along with the 2.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, held at least twice egregiously, where there's just no call. You'll see one of them here. It'll be the first play from the game that I'll show you. He tends to explode like this sometimes. If you recall, he did the same thing against the Raiders in week 2 at home. 2.5 sacks in that game as well. We would like for the 7 sacks to be maybe a little bit more spread out, a consistent contribution of sacks, quarterback hits, and or pressures. It looks to me like on film he's figured some things out. He's very decisive. His athleticism seems to be overwhelming some of these tackles at times, particularly some of the lesser athletes that you see the Steelers have at left tackle in particular. Quick flashback to against the Raiders, and I just want to show the 2 types of moves that he used. Well, the fact that he can use multiple moves. So real quick, taking the right arm and swatting down with the outside arm of Colton Miller, who's a pretty high-level tackle, if you ask me. You can see it here with the right hand swatting down. It's going to break the posture just enough such that 74 loses balance. Oweh gets around the edge. An attempt at a hold doesn't matter. Ends up being a loss of 7 yards. Only showing you these 2 plays to illustrate the different kinds of moves. When he gets rolling, it's like every move is working. He almost reminds me of maybe like a Major League Baseball starting pitcher who he's got 3 or 4 pitches, but 3 of them aren't always working, aren't always sharp. But every now and then, every third start or every second start maybe, all 3 pitches are just absolutely humming and breaking quickly. And when he does put it all together in one particular game, he can be absolutely dominant. And he was yesterday, in my opinion. Initially, he started playing off the right side, and then eventually moved over to the left side. He seems to be our best pass rusher at this point right now. Early in the season, it was Kyle Van Noy. Other than that 2.5 sack performance that Oweh had against the Raiders, is it enough for you to justify his salary? I mean, the Ravens are going to have a big decision coming up, but it looks to me at this point through 11 games that he's going to finish in the 10, 11, 12 sack range, somewhere in that area, absent injury. That would warrant the Ravens taking a serious look at bringing him back, obviously, beyond just the current contract. So let's get to the film against the Steelers. It's going to be a run concept. He's up to the top side. 11 personnel by the Steelers, but really this guy, Skowronek, however you say his name, he's operating as a tight end. It's jet dive, a concept that we run. So the jet to one side and the dive back down to the other. And we're kind of fortunate that Oweh's got this ability to close down. Again, we're treating it like 11 personnel, so we've got our nickel defense on the field. There's Humphrey, and there's Kyle Hamilton. So even though we're treating it like our nickel defense, we've dropped both safeties down, with Ardarius Washington being the middle of the field free safety, to recognize that this is probably a run play. Oweh closes down here from the backside. It's a good thing because they're able to get up to the linebacker level, kind of close those guys off. It ends up being a 4-yard gain for Najee Harris on what I think is a design cutback. His first quarterback hit of the game, this is in the first quarter. I believe this is the first drive for the Steelers, in fact. It's going to lead to their first field goal of the game to make it 3-0. And he's going to get a win up here against the left tackle, a vicious quarterback hit against Russell Wilson, who comes back and is just trying to get the ball out of play. I want to show you guys the end zone angle of this one a couple of times. When you heard me complain in the reaction video about the penalties, and some people did, and that's right, and fine if you want to call it sour grapes or say I'm complaining, but not making it up out of thin air. So here's Oweh off our left side, the right side of the defense, and we'll let the play flow through once. You really don't need me to do what I'm going to do here in a moment and pause it multiple times or run it back, but because you can see it with your own eyes. So Oweh's just engaging him in a pseudo bull rush here. He does a nice job on these things, but I don't know if you don't think that this is a hold that should be called with a referee standing right there looking at it. I have no idea how someone, let me move that out of the way. My apologies. I don't think the ref is actually visible for you guys. He's just off screen to your left, down here in this area, just off screen. I don't get it. Fortunately for us, no one's open. Russell Wilson doesn't end up finding a receiver to throw it to. I'm looking at this play now, and I'm like, I could foresee, because we're Ravens fans, we're so scarred by penalties in 2024. I'm sitting here thinking, like, it's entirely plausible they don't call this hold. Well, they didn't call this hold. And then they call this as unnecessary roughness on us. The way the game is being officiated against us is obvious to me. I don't feel any fear for mentioning it. I don't care. The NFL already goes after my channel enough and forcibly makes me edit the videos such that, after 48 hours, pretty much my videos are unwatchable. I don't care. There's an absolute imbalance in the way the game is officiated for the Ravens in 2024. Is there times where we're a little bit undisciplined and maybe we hold on offense? Sure. We get called for it. As you just saw in that play right there, the Steelers don't. That dynamic occurred, that happened twice in the game for Oweh, once for Van Noy, and twice on the inside situations where I don't think the play was called the way that it should have been. Nonetheless, Oweh's just playing in such a relentless manner that he's still able to get to the quarterback. Our coverage on the back end was really good as well, but I reject the notion of coverage sacks when you've got clean wins, number one, or number two, situations where an offensive lineman is obviously holding and it's not called. Moving forward here, the Steelers are up 3-0. Their second possession, Oweh again off the right side pretty much early in the game. It's a great job by him and Urban against this screen. This to me is one of the reasons that I talked about in the reaction video, Russell Wilson's decision making. You've got a press man corner. I'm not saying that you never throw a screen against a press man corner, but this type of screen against a press man's corner, to me, there needs to be either a second play involved here or some type of ability for Russell Wilson to check out of it. To my knowledge, this was not late in the play clock such that he couldn't check out of this. So Oweh is going to step down, stay flat, and then pursue inside out. Urban also is going to get underneath of the blocking scheme. It basically ends up being a 3-on-3 with a fourth possible player, Simpson, to skew or weigh the numbers in our favor. This is one of the reasons why in my reaction video I was so harsh talking about Russell Wilson, because I don't think, trust him to check in and out of different plays. I didn't see it very often yesterday to my knowledge. It's going to be a clean win against the left tackle for Oweh. He's up top here. We're still in the first quarter, but this is the Steelers' fourth possession. Ends up being a sack, loss of 10. We'll run it back from the all-22 one time, and then we'll let you see the end zone angle. So this is that kind of hop step where you're also swatting down with the outside arm. And yet Moore, I think it's Dan Moore, is able to get into the chest a little bit. But because he was tilted so far forward, Oweh's athleticism allows him to bend underneath of Moore and then clear his hips, get a direct path to the quarterback. I actually skipped over a sack, I think, from the third possession. It was a 3rd and 20 where Wilson tries to scramble, and Stevens and Oweh kind of split the sack. So that one won't be shown here. But this is the move. We'll let it run through a couple of times. I don't know if you guys like seeing it, and forgive me if the video kind of stutters when you see the move. But I feel like, for me at least, I like to see the moves during the play and try to pause it so I can see what technique the guy actually executed. It's tough to see in live speed. If you don't, in my experience, coaching and even trying to evaluate film, if I don't pause it like this and get a real good look at it, I'm not so familiar with the technique from a teaching standpoint. I never coached outside linebackers who were rush ends, obviously at that level. So it helps me understand it. And even going back to my coaching days, it helped me be able to recognize things and feel like I understood the game at a little bit better level. You guys let me know if you like it when the play is run back like that, particularly on edge rush situations or block destruction. I think we did a pretty good job yesterday defensively overall, and the block destruction looked better. The Steelers defense played downhill. You got to give them credit. Even though I do think that they got away with some holds in the defensive secondary, they recognized the situation, and so they used it to their advantage. That's just being a smart competitor. So credit to them for that. We need to do that, and I think we did. I think did we get to their level yesterday defensively? I think we were pretty damn good. I guess you'd have to say their defense played better. They got the win, right? Quite obviously. Oweh, if you ask me, played downhill. You can see it. But a lot of our second-level defenders played downhill as well. I'm going to do a Roquan Smith video this week. I think he's worthy of it. He played his ass off yesterday, if you ask me. Another sack on the other side, and this little like jerk pull move he pulls off. This is a 3rd and 4. It's in the second quarter. I think it's the Steelers' 5th possession. And they're only up 3-0 at this point. I mean, this is AFC North 2007, throwback, if you ask me. You kind of get a view of it here. Oweh is locked up with him briefly, and then he's got his hands on the inside, and he's going to pull downward. And so you'll see the tackle get pulled in this direction. And then Oweh releases, clear path. That's the one thing about Oweh yesterday that seemed to strike me. Is his contact balance was better. He was playing through that second or third contact. I'm talking about right here. These situations where sometimes he would get rode out of there. He wasn't, because the move he had just run 0.3 seconds earlier or 0.2 seconds earlier worked better. It was cleaner, in my opinion. So therefore he wasn't getting bumped off of his path in the second or third engagement. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. We'll do the same thing here. This is that play from the end zone angle. We'll run it back so you can see. It's a little bit of a slower move. Hands on the inside, grabs. We called it jerk pull. He's got his right hand up under the left armpit on the chest plate, I think, on the outside of the chest plate. Maybe he's actually grabbed it. I'm not sure. Looks like shoulder pads, actually. And then pulls down to use that to catapult himself in the direction of Russell Wilson. Clean sack, 2.5 on the day. Between him and Madubuike, have they been as consistent in 2024 as Madubuike in 2023, Clowney and Van Noy? No, but also part of that is our faulty memory. All of us remembering how dominant we were defensively at times in 2023. We took a step in the right direction, in my opinion, against the Steelers. How much of that is due to the limitations of their offense and the limitations that I believe there are with Russell Wilson and what they think he can get accomplished, I don't know. Moving forward here, this is the 6th possession. Ravens are up 7-6. They did a ton of this. Start out in empty, and they're trying to declare the coverage, which they do. I thought Marlon did a great job against Pickens. How many of his catches with the ball on the left hash were on this side of the field? Maybe one, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong here. Feel free to let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong. I felt like all of his catches and targets was pretty much down here from the left hash downward, or a couple of snag routes in that area there, what I tend to call zone 2. But in any case, we're focusing on Oweh. This is actually a pick by him. He's picking for the nose tackle, Broderick Washington. I think Broderick Washington's a little too wide here, but it is a right-handed quarterback. And Russell Wilson is athletic. So Broderick Washington's put in a little bit of conflict here, if you ask me. I'm not sure if I'll be able to explain it well in the time constraint or time period that I'm willing to dedicate to it here. But Oweh is picking the center, and Broderick Washington is looping around. Broderick Washington is the contain player. We're matching up here in man. So as it stands, if Broderick Washington was super tight, and you'll get the end zone angle in a moment, Russell Wilson might be able to skirt to the outside here. And since Russell Wilson is actually a faster, more agile athlete than Broderick Washington, he's got to kind of account for that. So I'll give you the end zone angle to kind of illustrate it. We got a nose and a wide 9. He's going to step down, and then Broderick Washington's going to loop around. I still think he's a little too wide. We would almost teach this like inside linebackers, except we would want to stay square. So inside linebackers on pursuit, inside out, you generally want to be off the back hip. And when he gets the pick here, there's just a significant amount of space between Wilson's outside hip and his inside hip. We don't want to be super tight to the wall here, such that Wilson can just escape. But I think he might be a little bit too wide. I understand there'll be football people in the comment section that would say, Coach, that's not how we teach it. It's a little bit more complicated than that. We would generally coach the players depending upon their speed and agility level. And so I understand why here he's looping so far to the outside. Oweh, to me, deserves a little bit of credit for a nice pick. And the tackle, who I think is a second-year player, isn't able to recognize it at all. I was a little surprised by their offensive line's inability to handle things without holding at times and difficulty recognizing some of our stunts. I don't know about you. I think they could have been called for 3 or 4 more holds just on pass plays, not even run plays, which I haven't looked at so far in the all-22 or end zone angle. So moving on to the fourth quarter here. This is going to be Russell Wilson's interception. Really poor decision. I just don't think that Darnell Washington is a guy that is going to make jump ball plays. Oweh gets a win here, and then I think it's the left guard tries to peel back and help out, but I could be wrong. Oweh misses it. Unfortunately, Ardarius up the challenge. It's another interception by Marlon Humphrey. It's pure insanity this year what he's been able to do. He should be frustrated because he's playing at an all-pro level, I think, for 94, 95% of the games. Here's Oweh. Same jerk pull move versus the right tackle. It's just a little bit quicker. He's able to get in on Wilson. Unfortunately, fortunately, I should say, unable to finish the sack. It just happens a little quicker. Look at how weak the set is by 77. I mean, when I tell you that this is not a team that scares me offensively at all, these are some of the reasons why. Nice awareness. It was the right guard. My apologies. I was wrong. 66 peeling back to try to impact or help out. Oweh, 77, the right tackle, stays on him, and unfortunately Oweh goes down. Wilson lobbing it up. You just can't make that throw. In that situation, up 14-10 with 9.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you absolutely can't make that decision. I thought I saw after the second or third possession their offensive play calls change. If you remember early in the game, many situations where Wilson would drop back to pass, look in one direction, maybe a slight pump fake, or immediately look off and go somewhere else, and there was just nothing there. So we're playing good pass defense, don't get me wrong. I think that their offensive staff recognized, hey, Russ isn't picking it up, Russ isn't finding lanes, and their play calling changed somewhere around a third or fourth possession. A lot of play action running back screens, which is a very anomalous play in the NFL. It's a play action to the running back, making it look like you're going to throw the ball downfield and then coming back to the running back for a screen. Their over-reliance on that. Think of conceptually what that is. You're forced to throw the ball to one guy. There is no, quote, option on the play. There's no read. There's no progression. There's a lot of that I am perceiving, and it's fine if other people aren't willing to go as far. I think their coaches recognize that the combination of Russ's unwillingness to throw the ball quick and our coverage on the back end necessitated a change in their play calling. Essentially, run the ball more, which they already want to do anyway, and then running back / tight end screens off play action, which would essentially be safe plays. And to me, the reason why I think it's a good decision by their team is kind of evidenced by their coaching staff. It's kind of evidenced by the interception there. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to win playoff games for this team. I just don't. I understand that they've scored 30 points a game and they just beat us, and we're now 7-4 and 2 games behind them in the AFC North race. So I'm fine if other people have a different opinion. As it relates to Oweh, how many of these were coverage sacks? 0. Oweh is winning at the point of attack cleanly. And regardless of whether, that's the coverage's job. That's the job of the DBs and the inside linebackers. Roquan, in this video clip here, he took away 2 of the initial reads by Russell Wilson. That's what we're supposed to do so that the pass rusher can get there. That's what we did in 2023. Yesterday looked a lot more integrated. Odafe Oweh was a big part of it, if you ask me. His best game of the year, along with the Week 2 win against the Raiders. You guys let me know what you think of his play from yesterday's loss to the Steelers. The plays that I chose to kind of illustrate how well he performed, in my opinion. And if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Odafe Oweh, who now has 7 sacks, 18 quarterback hits, and is among the best edge rushers in the league in terms of quarterback hits, and then 12th, tied for 12th in sacks. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy it, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.